High Five have a long and illustrious reputation for providing great sports nutrition, and countless athletes use their products. I wanted to put them through their paces to see what I thought and look at them from a performance nutrition point of view as well. I think they have some potentially awesome options for people, including their aqua gels, which are a super interesting option for those who don't like the classic gel product. So what's up, nutrition nerds? If you're new here, then hey, my name is James and I'm a sports nutritionist, and I love to review and test products that people might want to use. First up, as usual, I am not sponsored or affiliated with High Five. I bought the products that I'm testing with my own money so that I can make sure I give you as unbiased a review as possible. Now, High Five have a lot of different options, and we're going to run through some of their gels, their bars, their hydration products, and their drinks. Let's start with the bars because they're a fun option. They've got two sizes, and as you can see, this one is teeny tiny, and then you've got its older, bigger brother here. These are the nutritional profiles for both, and as you can see, this is basically just double this one. High Five suggests these bars can be used for a variety of different activities, and I think it's a pretty reasonable list. These bars contain oats as well as fruit pieces, and actually a pretty cool thing is that High Five says that these are one of your 5 a day, and you get a combination of complex and simple carbohydrates. They're great for providing energy, and these definitely fit the bill as a sports bar in my eyes. I've noticed though that they don't provide the fiber content, and I suspect that the combination of oats and real fruit pieces means that it might be reasonably high, especially compared to other sports bars. This could be more of an issue if you're running, especially at high intensities or towards the end of a long endurance event. Basically, fiber is slower and harder to digest, which means that you're at a higher risk of tummy upset when you eat more of it, but mostly it is running which is the main issue. So if you're considering using these for running, then I would definitely say to make sure that you test them properly, including at whatever race pace or intensity you're hoping to go at. As far as taste and texture go for these, I think they're awesome. I actually really enjoyed eating them because you get this oaty, chewy deliciousness and then a genuine fruity blast, and I thought they were delicious. Honestly, my main issue with the bars is with this little guy, and it's actually because it's too small. I just think for the packaging and the chewing, just 20 grams of carbohydrates and 100 calories just isn't really worth it for me. So ignore that and just eat the bigger bar, and I think the bar is a super product. So moving on to the gels, and we've got a load of different ones. Let's start with the regular gels here, because these are the pretty standard run-of-the-mill gel. They contain 23 grams of carbohydrates, and this gel and the other gel in the range contain mostly maltodextrin as the source of carbohydrates. Now, this is important for anyone looking to consume more than 40, perhaps 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. The quick explanation here is that we know that most people can absorb between 40 and 80 grams of glucose or maltodextrin per hour whilst exercising, and around 30 to 60 grams of fructose an hour. Because the carbohydrates in these gels come from a single source of carbohydrates, as in glucose, there's a risk that you would max out your glucose transporters, so a higher risk of tummy upset because you have unabsorbed nutrition sitting or bouncing around in your gut. So these gels wouldn't really be my preference. If you're looking to go above 40, perhaps as a max 60 grams of carbohydrates an hour. Instead, I would use one which contains fructose as well, but unfortunately there aren't any of those in the High Five gel range. As far as taste goes, they're pretty good. They're fruity but not overpowering, and I would be happy to use them repeatedly. They are pretty gel-like, so you do get that gloopiness with them, and they are very sticky. Moving on to the caffeine version of these standard gels then, and we've got the same basic makeup of the gel, with 23 grams of carbohydrates predominantly from glucose, and we have 30 milligrams of caffeine per gel. Caffeine is an awesome tool for basically any exercise out there, and in the right scenario, it's definitely a tool that I would advise athletes to use. However, these gels have a low amount of caffeine in, which isn't really ideal in my opinion. You'll usually see caffeine gels contain about 100 milligrams of caffeine, like those by Maurten, OTE, and Science in Sport. Usual guidance for caffeine is 1 to 3 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight, which means most people will need to have at least 2 of these perhaps even 3 or 4. That just makes it so much more difficult to get the caffeine in, and my preference would just be to do it all in one go. However, with that said, it might be good for those who are sensitive to caffeine or who want much more control over the actual amount of caffeine they have and at what intervals. As far as taste goes, they're good too. Just like the standard gel, they're fruity and I like them. And you don't get any of the caffeine bitterness sometimes associated with caffeine containing products. So finally in this gel range, we've got the aqua gels, and they are a super interesting one. They're designed for people who don't like the classic gel gloopiness that you get with their standard ones, and you can be absolutely sure these aren't the same. The easiest way to describe these is like fruit juice in a packet. Literally, it's basically just water and there's no gel gloopiness to them at all. So I think these are a really cool option for someone who just wants to try something a bit different. I love that companies come up with these sort of things to offer different solutions. You've got Maurten's hydrogels. OTE have a blend of fruit juice and gel, and then you've got these aqua gels. They contain 23 grams of carbohydrates from glucose, so the same issue remains. All of these gels work out as about £1.50 each, which I think is a fair price for what they are. Because, as a bit of a sum up, I think these high five gels are alright. I don't think they are particularly geared towards performance, and I can't see myself recommending them over any other brands out there. Their use of a single carbohydrate source isn't ideal, and their caffeine amounts just don't really work for me. So let's put these gels aside for now, and move on to the part where I say, if you're finding this video useful so far, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. So after that smooth transition, let's move on to their energy drink, and starts on a positive note by saying that these contain a 2:1 ratio of maltodextrin to fructose. This is a pretty normal ratio that you'll find in lots of sports drinks, and really puts this one back in the mix with its competitors. Yeah, right, maybe not the best pun. The drink tastes good, mixes well, and the powder isn't sticky. The taste does lean slightly towards the artificial side, but still good enough to drink repeatedly. The drink mix contains 44 grams of carbohydrates and 0.6 grams of salt, which is 240 milligrams of sodium. That's about bang on for the minimum amount of sodium that I would want to see in a sports drink like this. They claim it's an isotonic drink, which should mean it's tolerated pretty well by most people. Overall, I think it's pretty good, and I don't really have any complaints. It's a standard sports drink mix, which ticks all the boxes. Now they do also have 2 other versions of this standard drink mix, which both contain caffeine. One which contains 28 milligrams of caffeine and the other which contains 140 milligrams, both with the same 44 grams of carbohydrates. Same issue as the gels here in that the 28 milligrams of caffeine per serving is just not enough. The 140 milligram one though is much more to my liking. Sits nicely in most people's recommended caffeine intake ranges, mixes well, tastes good. Solid product. Next up in the drink line is their isotonic hydration mix, which provides energy and electrolytes. This is the nutritional data per serving, so 112 calories, 28 grams of carbs, and 0.6 grams of salt, so again 240 milligrams of sodium. This drink mix is a bit of a weird one for me because I'm not really sure what it's aiming at. It has less carbs than the standard energy drink mix, the same amount of sodium, and isotonic as well. You mix it with the same amount of water, and you get a few different minerals like potassium and calcium. But to be honest, as a sports drink geared towards hydration, I mostly care about salt and carbohydrates, and all this one does is provide less carbohydrates and the same amount of salt. I'd understand more if the salt content was higher so that it could really be geared towards a hydration drink, but it's not, and it's already on the lowest limit of what I would hope for in a hydration drink. So yeah, not quite sure about this. It tastes fine, although this flavour does hit the back of your teeth a little bit and gives you a bit of that face screwed up feeling. Definitely not my favourite in terms of flavour, but it's not too bad either, and you might quite like it. But for me, this just sits in such a weird place, and it wouldn't be my go-to for hydration because I just think there are lots of other better products out there. Now finally in the drink line, we've got their Zero tablets, which to me is a bit of a funny name. Not zero hydration, but zero sugar. These are 0-calorie electrolyte tablets aimed purely at hydration. These contain sodium, magnesium, potassium, calcium, vitamin C, and green tea, and 250 milligrams of sodium per tablet. You know what I'm going to say here. 250 milligrams of sodium is low for a product that you mix with 500 milliliters of water, especially as a hydration product. This is fine if you aren't doing particularly hard exercise, but again, I don't think this is particularly performance focused, and there are other better options out there. As for the taste, it's alright. Pretty mild taste, which depending on your preferences is good or bad. And these create a still drink rather than a fizzy drink, which might be better for you if you have a pressurized bottle. If you have a bottle with a fizzy hydration tablet, then it's more likely to fizz or puff out, and that can be really annoying. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. This is another average product, and I can't really see myself using it or recommending it. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, and there's nothing actually wrong with it, it's just a bit weak in all senses. Now, a couple of things to round out this high five review. In general, these products aren't batch tested, so if you want a batch tested product, you have to buy from their tested range. These are tested under Informed Sport for any banned substances, so if you're in competitive sport, then this should reduce the risk of inadvertent doping offences. Their batch tested range isn't any more expensive than their normal range, which is pretty cool. However, your options are limited. Something I do love about these High Five products is that when you buy them directly from High Five, you get a handy recycling envelope to send all your used products back in, which High Five say they'll recycle. Of course, this doesn't change my opinion on the overall products, but this initiative gets a big thumbs up from me. So overall, I have pretty mixed feelings about this High Five range. I thought that their gels and some of their drink range were average, although the energy drink and the energy drink mix with caffeine were good. I really enjoyed the energy bars though, and they were definitely a standout for me. Now there are plenty of other options out there when it comes to nutrition, and I've put a couple of videos up on the screen for you so that you can check some of those out.